Hey guys, Kiki from Eat More to Weigh Less. Wanted to talk a little bit today about rep ranges. In order to get the results that you want to make sure that you are working in the rep ranges that pertain to your goals. And this will change based on if your goal is endurance, if your goal is strength, if your goal is fat loss, if your goal is maintenance. This will change. So a lot of the statements that I'm going to give are very general, but it's to teach you how to be able to apply these things for whatever your goal is. But also mostly just to let you know that you can't just pick a rep range and roll with it. It's not like now, granted, if you're a new beginner, you can technically do anything and get results because you may not really have an idea yet of what results you're after, and B, anything that you're doing is better than what you were doing if you were doing nothing. So if you go from doing nothing to doing something, literally you can do anything and get results. So I'm not talking about the new beginner, but for the person that is goal oriented, you do know what you want, or maybe you've been lifting for a year or so, you have to start kind of following the rules after a certain point, because eventually what you're doing is not more than what you were doing. You're doing the same thing. For those that are you're working out regularly, you're lifting weights, you've decided to incorporate strength training into your routine, you've essentially picked maybe the rep range that appeals to you the most, or the type of workouts that appeal to you the most, and you start out doing those. Maybe you were getting great results, but eventually maybe you hit a plateau, or you get into kind of a wheel spinning mode, and there's a reason for that. If you're only sticking to what rep range you prefer and your goals don't match that rep range, you're probably going to hit a plateau. In addition, every goal kind of needs to tap into certain rep ranges all the time. So no matter what your goal is, you really do want to hit every rep range at some point. You may not want to stay in that rep range because of the fact that, you don't want to undo what you've done in the specific phase that appeals to what you're trying to accomplish. So what I mean by rep range is there is the strength range, which is anywhere from 1 to 7-ish reps. So from 1 to 7 reps, you're building strength. It's true strength training. This is when you're getting stronger, you're lifting heavier and heavier, you're maxing out, you're hitting PRs every time. That is the strength rep range. This is when you're at, like 90% or so of your 1 rep max. So you're really hitting it hard. Your goal may be powerlifting, or perhaps you've experienced some kind of atrophy in a certain muscle, or you're at an age where you want to develop strength to be able to nurture the bones. You'd stay in the strength rep range. The strength rep range, it allows you to be able to just function in everyday life. Everybody needs to hit the strength range at some point in time, because this is the basic things that we're doing in life: picking up our kids, squatting down to get something, standing back up, or standing up out of a chair, pushing yourself out of bed in the morning, carrying groceries in and out of the car, getting something down from the cabinets, things like that. This is your basic strength. This is the part that begins to degenerate as we age. So everybody should and needs to hit the strength rep range at some point. Now, if you're a competitive power lifter, you're going to stay in that range a lot more than someone who is a marathon runner. A marathon runner definitely needs to hit this rep range because oftentimes they're doing so much cardio that it starts to eat away at their muscle, or their bones start getting weaker, so you need to develop that strength around the joints to be able to support your activities, but to still continue in the type of lifestyle that you prefer. The other thing about strength training is that strength, the 1 to 7 rep range, and this usually has longer rest periods, which is why a person who really loves endurance is not too keen on strength training, because they don't like just standing around, for 1 to 3 minutes, which is typically the amount of time that you will need for that muscle to recuperate for you to be able to hit it again at full strength. So you'll have the 1 to 7 rep range, anywhere from, maybe 60 to 90 seconds of rest, sometimes up to 3 minutes or so, 120 seconds of rest that you'll need to hit for that, so that you can develop strength. So if you're in a workout plan that has a strength rep range, this is not the time for you to fill in the gaps of the rest periods and do some jumping rope or jumping jacks or hop on your elliptical or whatever, or fast forward or something, if you're doing a DVD to pass the time. You need that rest time in order to develop the strength. So if you're in that rep range, another benefit of it is that this is when you actually develop muscle density. So this doesn't mean that the muscle gets bigger, it just gets denser. So your muscle fibers are strengthening. You may notice that in some of the other rep ranges, oftentimes during the workout, maybe you'll get a good pump where you kind of see the muscle there, but it disappears later, or you'll think you see like cuts to a muscle, or maybe even your muscle will seem really, really big, but when you squeeze it, it kind of like deflates. I'll show you my muscle as an example. So like for instance, okay, so you have the bicep. If sometimes you squeeze that and it will, or you just press it and it kind of deflates. The strength rep range is what develops that structure to it, that it doesn't deflate. I'll put my muscle on right now. I often explain it like a rubber band ball. I don't know if you've ever seen those, but where you just wrap layer on top of layer on top of layer, of that ball, and eventually it gets larger, but it's very, very dense. It's like an actual ball versus a balloon where it's full of air or whatever. So some of the other rep ranges will fill the muscle with water, whereas strength is what creates that actual muscle density, that hardness to the muscle. So every goal, should still tap into the strength rep range at some point in time. Maybe not everyone needs to stay there, but depending on your goal, you'll do strength more or less. So that is the strength rep range.